name is Karim Masaba, the Member of Parliament representing Industrial Division, Mbale City, and I came as an independent Member of Parliament. And we've made 4 years in Parliament. We've started the 5th year. But in my view, as a Member of Parliament, I believe I have achieved a lot. I have fulfilled most of the pledges, most of what I did expect to fulfill when I was joining Parliament in these first years. It is challenging as any other job. Of course, the first year is a bit challenging. There is more of the learning process, how things are done. Of course, you could have an idea on how Parliament is run and how committees run, how you do the work. But you need time. Everything takes time to learn. And I think the first year basically was more about learning, networking, and trying to see how best you can serve your people in the constituency. But when you look at my performance, I think I've really done quite well, because you'll not find many members of Parliament who have been on several committees, ad hoc committees, who have been performing in parliamentary committees, who have been performing in plenary, who have been performing in the constituency, as I have done. Because when you look, for example, in my first year, I was appointed on the Parliamentary Task Force on COVID-19, and we moved around the entire country trying to see how the funds were used, the COVID-19, how it affected the country and the health sector. And we did recommend a lot of things, including purchase of ambulances, to have ambulances on each hospital, regional referral hospital, and health center force. And to some extent, that has been fulfilled. When you look at the government plan and strategy, they did pick many of our recommendations and observations. When you go to the other committee that I did be on, the NSSF, it was one of the most followed committees, because many people had interest in what was happening. Many of our people who are working out there in the public, who are saving, they were interested so much in this report, and we did our best to see how we can protect our savers' money. I've been on the report of Budadiri, and Parliament did approve it and support our recommendations on how to save government's money. I've been on the team investigating Posta Uganda. This report is not yet finally out. Apart from the other committees, I've been on the Budget Committee of Parliament, I've been on the Finance Committee of Parliament, and I've really done quite well. Those who've been following Parliament, you can see, most especially when it comes to issues concerning finance, budgeting, and taxation and all that, I've been able to achieve a lot, and I do believe I've met the expectations of my voters. Away from that, in the constituency, of course, I've been trying to balance both parliamentary work and the constituency. It is sometimes challenging to balance the two. When you give so much time to Parliament, you end up giving less time to the constituency. So when you give much more time the other side, you'll find there are holes this way. You're being limited in performing in Parliament. But I've been able to do a lot, though at times I've used a good team on ground to perform even when I'm not there. But when I'm there, I make sure I do fulfill what I'm supposed to do, the pledges that I made to my people. I've been the chairperson of the City Roads Committee of Mbale for these years. And you see that I've tried to push so much that work is done in the city. There is accountability for funds concerning road fund. Yes, there are funds that, of course, the technical team has failed to account for. And because I'm not a technical engineer, I cannot go into the nitty-gritty of the details and try to analyze how much it costs to do a certain, maybe a kilometer of this and that. But as chair, I've tried to do my best to follow up on most of these on these roads. I've been to various health centers in Mbale, the regional referral hospital. I've been to Nandala, I've been to Bomboi. I've donated beds, I've donated mattresses, I've mama kits, and all the things that are required to do or to help most of our people get the essential services. When you look at the education sector, I've been to various schools. I've tried to promote. I've done a lot of donations in terms of infrastructure. As I talk now, I'm going to be distributing books. I've given books to several schools. I've been able to help educate very many of our students. I've lobbied through some of my friends for toilets for some of the schools like Nauyo Primary School in Nauyo. I've been able to lobby for water system in Namatala. So I've been able to do a lot in terms of the education sector. Away from the education, in terms of agriculture, I think my farmers there do know what I've been doing every season. I've been able to support them in terms of fertilizers, in terms of seeds. Some have been receiving hose. So I've done much more than I'm supposed to do as a legislator, because our rules are, and when you look at the Constitution, it stipulates what we are mandated to do. But of course, because of the situations of our people, we end up doing beyond what we are supposed to do. I've been able to donate, because when you look right now in Mbale Industrial Division, once you have a function, when you lose someone, you do not need to hire tents. I've made tents that are able to satisfy the need of the entire constituency, because I've analyzed the need, and on average every day I do have about 3-4 burials, maybe 1 or 2 weddings or 3 weddings on the weekends, or 4, so it all depends. But I've been able to make tents. I've been able to do one of the best public address systems in Mbale, and it is free of charge. All these are free of charge. I actually even incur the cost of transporting them to take them to where they're supposed to be used, and then bring them back. So all you need to do is contact my office, and I think my voters can witness to this. I've provided tents, tarpaulins, so I've done much more than I'm supposed to do in the Constitution, and I believe that my voters do appreciate, because every time I'm out there, every time I'm on functions, I'm on radio, they do appreciate, and I hope they will show that appreciation in the elections when we go to the general elections in 2026. Given my mandate as a member of Parliament, you know, Parliament is quite broad, and we do have a lot of things. But as long as you can identify your strengths and weaknesses, you do a SWOT analysis on yourself and know which area you can focus on. Of course, I'm not a medical doctor. I cannot give so much emphasis or give so much input to that. You know, I'm not a teacher. Of course, there are the basics that we'll discuss about, say, for example, teachers, the enumerations, how best can we enhance their salaries. When you look at the medical field, we do support whatever comes, because as a member of the budget committee, when they bring things to do with the regional referral hospitals, I think the public and my voters have been able to see me advocating so much, supporting so much some of the projects that do happen, like decentralizing the dialysis, having it at regional levels. And right now, as I speak, people do not need to come from Mbale to go to Chirudu to be able to do dialysis. When you look at the cancer patients, that is a service now that we are decentralizing and will be able to have in Kampala. So these have been coming through. I've been raising them on the floor of Parliament. They go to the health committee, which has the experts, of course, who deal with the figures and the technical team. And when it comes to the budget committee, I do support. But my main focus has been on the finance committee, because I'm an expert in this. It's my area that I did study and have a lot of experience in. And when you look at some of the proposals government has been bringing, I've been one of those who has keenly advised, most especially when you look at taxation. There are things that government has been bringing. For example, the public may not know, government in the last financial had brought a proposal to add a tax, to begin taxing everyone using agency banking on top of the already existing. But because there were loopholes in the system, I was able to argue out with the Attorney General on the floor of Parliament and see how best we can save our people. Because if I'm to withdraw money through an agency bank, why should you charge me extra cost? Why should I be taxed again? And yet someone who is withdrawing from an ATM is not taxed. This financial government had brought a proposal to increase again fuel. We did stop it and just it. Government had brought capital gains tax on land, whoever is disposing of their assets and what, which of course was not realistic. And we had a broader discussion, and this is something that failed out. When you look, government has bring a lot of bills, a lot of proposals, but I've been able to stand my ground. I've been, because I'm one of those who believe I cannot be compromised, my integrity cannot be compromised. So I've been able to stand ground and argue out, and at times have minority reports on some of these cases. Yes, we've ended up losing on the floor of Parliament because of parliamentary democracy. On some of the cases, say for example, on the issue of Luwoa, those who've been following, have been arguing out and fighting so much to see that this project goes on. Because what we wanted was value for our money. And at least we are seeing something coming up. Though we are not yet contented of the value for money, we want all the money government has dispensed to be put to use such that that center, that hospital can save us from going abroad. So these are some of the things we've been pushing, I've been pushing, but at times we end up losing on the floor of parliament. For example, at YAC, the argument we had when you look at money given to Magola, because I've been focusing more on how we can save taxpayers' money, because when we save wastage of taxpayers' money, it ends up being used by government to do other things for the mwananchi. That money is now being transferred to do other things. And for example, when you look at the parish development model, in the first year, government had given, I think, 17 million shillings. But when we joined parliament, that was one of the first things we started, we had an argument on, and the president right away, I remember in the first set of the national address, said now they'll be giving 100 million shillings. So when you look at some of the things, I believe there have been our achievements, not mine alone, of course, because in parliament you do not work alone. You work with colleagues in committees, you work with various individuals. You have to, of course, lobby on some of the things for support from some of the committee members, because they might not understand the broader aspect of some of these things. They might not understand what exactly it's going to do in the constituency. For example, the issue of the regional zoos. As the Shadow Minister of Tourism, this is one of my achievements, because I did put it out in my first minority report that we need to decentralize regional zoos, to have zoos in each region in the country in order to promote tourism, to develop all these other places, Mbarara, Mbale, Gulu, Hoima, Masaka. So this was one of the first things I did put in my first report. And when I reached and had a discussion with the committee on tourism and trade, they did support and saw it as a very good idea, because many of our schools, many of our students incur a lot of money, a lot of costs to move, to come to Kampala for study trips and all this, and yet we can save this money and put it to another use. And as I speak now, the first regional zoo in the country is being constructed, and it's going to be opened. The first phase is done. It will be opened next month in Mototo sub-county in industrial division in Mbale, because this was, according to my view, when we had a discussion with the committee, we decided that we should pilot it somewhere, we should begin from somewhere, and since this was my idea, we decided to put it in Mbale, and government has invested about 5 billion in the next financial. The committee, when you look at Ministry of Tourism, they've brought again about 4 billion in the second phase, because it's going to be done in a phased manner. So I think this will in one way or another promote tourism in Mbale, in Bugisu, and all the other regions in the country where we are going to have such centers. Away from that, I've been advocating for more investment into tourism infrastructure, and yes, government claims there are limited resources, but I think we will keep pushing and see how best we can achieve one by one.
During this time, because one of the other states, don't you share experience and initiation orientation how was it?
Yes, when we joined Parliament, there was an orientation for the members of Parliament. It was about 1 week orientation, if I recall well. We were taught some of the things, the rules of procedure of Parliament, because Parliament has its own rules of procedure, and this is something you do not get to see unless you're here in Parliament. Yes, they're out there, they're published, but since they govern Parliament, most people out there do not get to know what exactly the dress code, how you're supposed to speak on the floor of Parliament, how things are supposed to move. So yes, this was one of the first things, and I don't know if it has been happening in the other parliaments, but I'm grateful that the 11th Parliament we did have this, and it did guide us, teach us, some of the new members, on how best we can articulate, how we can raise, how do you come up with a matter of national importance, how do you do this and this. So there was that orientation which introduced us to how best we can perform. Yes. So that orientation was there. It did give us the knowledge, but again, it's challenging in Parliament as a new legislator, of course, because you find people who've been here for maybe over 20 years, 30 years, 15 years, who are taken as senior legislators, who, of course, would be having more experience than us. So you must make sure that if you're to stand out as a young member of parliament, because I joined parliament in my 20s, and it is hard to find people joining in their 20s to join parliament. So I joined at a very young age, and given that it was my first time, it was challenging to raise some of these matters. When you look at my performance in the first year, it was a bit tricky, because when you reach on the floor of parliament, the speaker or deputy speaker even does not know some of your names. They are seasoned politicians that he knows. He will call the honorable this, honorable this. So you must stand out. You must be good at what you do. That is why I've stood out. When you look at the issues concerning finance, budgeting, economics, I've stood out, and I believe if you're to rate my performance, I should be having a distinction in that. And Parliament does appreciate when they see someone's talent, and they did see my talent, and that is why I was put on the various committees. That is why when you see I've engineered very many reports, I've guided Parliament on very many of some of these issues because of my knowledge in that field. You shouldn't go jumping from here to here to here to be everywhere. When you try to be everywhere, you'll end up being nowhere. So as a member, I knew my strength. I made sure that they do see my strength, and when there is a topic or there is an issue concerning that, I'm one of the consultants on that specific matter on the floor of Parliament. Of course, in every job there are challenges, there are regrets, and there are things you wish could have been done otherwise, but because they are beyond your control, then there is nothing more you can do about it. For example, when you look at some of the reports that have been brought up, I do feel sorry for this country. I believe as a person, there's been wastage of government money, there's been wastage of government resources, but this is something that is beyond my control. I even feel very sad that we are giving away this money. Yes, the government will say we are investing. For example, when you see the convention center in Munyonyo, government is investing in money, but we've never recouped back even one single shilling from that investment. It's now over 20 years. We've never got back money, and you're still investing there. And then when you're having government projects, when we are writing reports, we have to go and pay. Parliament pays to use Munyonyo. So when you see such things, you feel sad, you feel really bad, you feel disappointed that you could have done better, but of course, because it's parliamentary democracy, then there is nothing more you can do. Once you raise your view, once you stand on the floor of Parliament and if the other side has the numbers, then there is nothing more you can do. But you have to keep pushing and hoping that maybe things will work out better for you in the next maybe term.
Does not make it clear that you must see the setup from Mbale, the specific, Mafabi is going to Parliament, and even yours, necessary work. Some people have argued as a performance president, the Icon. I just want to understand. How do you see yourself?
Of course, there are shoes that are usually very big and kind of hard to fit in, and it takes time to fit in certain shoes. Honestly speaking, when you look at our senior colleague, I take him as a senior colleague, a mentor of course, because I've been able to learn a lot from him in the years I've been around. Before even joining Parliament, I did, because he did almost the same field of study like me. He was into economics and accounts, and he did guide me, of course, when yes, when you look at our colleague, the Honorable Nandala Mafabi, he's been one of those legislators that we've been looking up to. He's a senior colleague. He's one of the people I do consider as a mentors, because even before joining Parliament, I did interact with him on several occasions, even when he was the chairman of the Public Accounts Committee. I remember I was still studying economics at Makerere, but at times I used to come to his office here at Parliament. So we did learn a lot. We've learned a lot. So when you talk about me fitting in his shoes, I think it's quite early for me to say that, because it takes time to achieve a certain level of status. And I'm proud and happy that is going to be contesting for the highest office in this country. Because after serving for 25 years, because at the end of this term, I think he will be serving 25 years, I think you've given enough service to Parliament. You've done enough for the people at that level, at a constituency level, and you need to move forward. I'm one of those who do not believe in leaders overstaying in certain positions. Of course, someone being in one position, member of Parliament for 30 years, 20, because he's 25, if he's to contest again, it will be 30 years. So being in a constituency for 30 years, I think, in my view, that is too much. And I think the decision he has made is the right decision. As Bugisu, if not, I don't remember having someone contest for and compete for this highest position. So I think it's good for the region, it's good for him as a person, it's good for his party, and I think it's good for democracy in this country, because at least we will have representatives competing at the highest levels from the different regions and different areas in this country. So this is good. It's time maybe for the constituency to have a new face. And maybe when time comes, I will also gain the experience, and if I'm voted, of course, because it takes the mandate of the people, the vote, and I'm hoping that I'm voted back to gain more experience, to add on what I've so far done, what I've so far learned in this term, because I cannot compare myself to what he has done in the last 25 years. He has done a lot, and I look up to some of the achievements, some of the things he has done. I do hope I will also get to do them, because when you look at his constituency, of course, if he's to come back again, he'll be voted. He will have a landslide victory. This is confidence, or this gives you the confidence that his people have in him, that he has done and he has been able to deliver. And he has put Bugisu on the map. Of course, he has represented as well as Bugisu. And I hope one day, God willing, inshallah, I'll reach that level. But it takes time to get there, and hopefully I will get there. I'm just in my 4th year in Parliament, and maybe if I'm given the 2nd or 3rd term, then I hope I will do much more than I'm doing right now. Yes, when I joined Parliament, of course, I was in a relationship. I was with someone, I was dating someone. I had done what we call the official kuchala. Or kuchala, of course, is not marriage. It's more of the tradition of you being introduced to the parents and the parents getting to know you. And then, of course, we had a small Islamic wedding, I would call it. Many of you know it as the Kuo and all that. We had it just right after we had joined Parliament. It was a small ceremony, and of course, that was the time when I was expecting to have a child. So right now, of course, I do have someone, and we have kids. We have now 2 beautiful kids, and hopefully God will be adding us many more kids to come. Yes, we are approaching elections, and of course the environment is heating up. I think we need to keep calm, because elections come and go. But many of our people end up losing their lives. Many of our people go with the elections, and those who went with the 2021 elections will not come back. If you do misbehave, if you cause chaos, if you go and cut your friend because of the elections, you'll kill someone. You might be arrested, and you'll spend the rest of your life in jail. You might get killed. You might get shot. And of course, after the elections in February, life will move on. So I call upon all the public, everyone out there, to keep calm. Let's have a peaceful election. You go and campaign for whoever you're campaigning for. Support whoever you're supporting peacefully. Come and convince me. Let me come and convince you. Let us not struggle. Let us not fight. And of course, my people do know me as a very peaceful young man, and I hope I'm voted back. I do pray and hope that they do give me another mandate, because it takes time to build a leader. A leader is not built within 1, 2, 3, 4 years. It takes time. When you look at most of the leaders, including even President Museveni, it has taken him time to get where he is. Before he became president, he served in this government for several years. He has served in several positions. So you judging me after 3, 4 years and saying maybe we need to change, I think you need to look at what I've achieved in a few years. Because one of the things I do have when I get to the constituency, At times they say, but Honorable, we wanted you to do this and this, you've not done it. We expected you to have done what maybe this Honorable did, but you've not fulfilled it. But you're forgetting that the person you're comparing me to has served for 15, 20 years, 25 years. So whatever you're saying he has done it for 25 years, and you want me to do it within 3-4 years, which is not realistic. I cannot do things in maybe 5 years. So I expect that my people will give me time. They need to add me my mandate for another term, and because at least I believe I've fulfilled most of the pledges, most of the promises. I have performed on the floor of Parliament, I have performed in the constituency, so I believe they will give me that mandate, and I do pray they give me more time to serve and continue doing what I've been doing, and I hope and I am optimistic that in the next term I'll perform much more better, because now I was a new person. Yes, they've built me, I've now been known, the public has got to know me, Parliament has got to know me, they have known my strength, and I hope when I come in the next Parliament, I'll now be looked at as one of the senior legislators, as one of the senior members who've been here now, who are doing their second, or because of course there are those who will be joining me. As always, we always have majority being the new members of Parliament. So me being in my second term will come as an added advantage, as a strength to me in the next Parliament, and I believe I will perform much more better than I'm doing right now.